This is Access Ann Arbor.
My name is Elaine Rumman. I am a retired school social worker. When I was in Ann Arbor Public Schools, I implemented a program called Proud Parent Network. The purpose of this program is to build bridges between home and school, to enhance the quality of parenting and communication skills, and to strengthen the family unity, hoping these programs will help to build a better society. We have with us two educators, Mr. Jas Obrecht. He is an author and music journalist, and Tom Zimmerman, Professor Tom Zimmerman, from the English Department of Washington Community College. They will be talking about what parents and teachers can do to inspire students to become better writers. Tom, can you please tell us briefly about yourself?
Of course, I'll be happy to. I've been teaching English at Washington Community College for 20 years, and in the 1980s, I was a high school English teacher. So creativity, which we'll be talking about today, has been a big part of my career and obviously a great interest for me, having taught English all those years.
And what about you, Jas?
I've been a music journalist, Elaine, for the past 35 years. I was an editor for Guitar Player magazine. I wrote for Rolling Stone magazine, and today I write for my own music website. And I've been teaching alongside Tom at Washington for the past 10 years.
That's been great, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I was in elementary school, the teacher told me that, Elaine, we were writing stories, and she told me, Elaine, your ending is very good, but nobody took care of me after that. And I want to ask you, what are some of the ways it benefits somebody to become a better writer?
I'll start. I think positive feedback. I think encouragement. So if we want to talk about little kids at home with their parents, and I know, Jas, you know a lot about this, having had one, I think positive reinforcement is the biggest thing, to honor that creative act initially. Now later, of course, when we get to a writing workshop or something, and Jas, you'll have some things to say about editing, I'm sure, and revising. But I think first of all, for almost anyone, is just to honor that creative act and honor the courage that someone has to share something.
When you say honor them, it means the teachers will help
well,
them?
I think parents first, I think.
Or parents?
Yeah, I think parents first, and then eventually the kids will go to school, and with any luck, the child will have self-esteem, from the parents, and then that will carry through, and with any luck, the teacher will also, provide that positive reinforcement.
Writing to learn well can change your life in a lot of ways. It can take you on journeys you can't possibly imagine right now. I've always felt that if you can marry your love of something in this world with the knowledge of how to write well, you can combine the two things and it could take you places.
Yes.
And so a lot of times writing is the first glance somebody has of you.
Yes.
And if you learn to write well and express yourself well, it opens up doors. You can get into a better college. You might get a better job. You might get hired somewhere and somebody will say, you know what? This person writes well. Maybe we can use them in the main office. Maybe we can use them to create company documents. Maybe we can use them to meet the public. So it can be transforming, and you really need to know a certain set of rules and how the language works, and it's something you can learn, like you can learn how to tune up an engine or change a flat tire.
Sure.
It really comes down to editing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What do you do with the words once they're written?
Right.
I just want to ask Tom,
Sure.
because when did you discover that you have interest in writing?
Oh, I think for me, my mother read to me when I was very young, and I learned to read very young. So I think right away I loved being read to. And then as soon as I learned how to read, I loved reading. And I think for most of us, and Jazz, I don't know what you'll think about
So
this.
we have to
yeah.
encourage parents
Well,
to
yeah,
read for
I think
their
so.
children.
I think most writers were probably first readers.
Right.
Although, or maybe listeners. If the person's a poet, it might have been the lyrics of a song that inspired the person.
What about you, Jas?
I knew by second grade I wanted to be a writer. My parents,
Wow.
my parents got me a book about archaeology, and I thought, wow, somebody wrote this. I want to write too.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I've never
That's
changed
great.
my mind.
Wow.
Second class. Wow, you must be very bright to discover yourself.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to those teachers, maybe, Elaine. I don't know.
Better ask my brothers.
What types of writing classes can students take at the college?
At Washington Community College, obviously we have freshman composition and two levels of that. We have some developmental courses. We also have creative writing. There are two sections of that students can take. We also have a journal workshop class, and those are the 4-credit classes at WCC. We also offer some creative writing classes through lifelong learning, which is our non-credit wing of the college. So there are lots of opportunities for students at WCC.
Great. You know, Jas, I took a class writing your memoir with you. I really was very helpful and inspired me. I just want to ask you, what kind of people are drawn to these types of classes, and what do they gain from the experience?
I think the lifelong learning ones are a bit different in that typically your audience is, your classmates are typically people around my age or older. And you know, one of the beautiful things about writing is it allows you to make your life matter in a certain way. I think all of us want our lives to matter, and by putting down our thoughts, our family stories, writing about the things we've been through, it's a way of achieving something and leaving something behind besides someone's photographs or memories of you. So I feel like a lot of the students who come to the memoir writing class or creative writing class or writing poetry classes, they want to leave an imprint on people. And luckily the school has a way to publish that stuff as well.
True enough.
Yeah, I believe you
Yeah.
tell us, Tom,
Sure,
about
right,
your book.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. At WCC, we have a literary journal called the Huron River Review, which we're working on issue number 12 right now. And you know, we've won many awards for it.
Oh,
And,
really?
yes, yeah, many awards, and you know, we have a lot of great, deep pool of talent at WCC, and we publish poetry, short fiction, short nonfiction, photography, artwork, and so it's a really good opportunity for all kinds of people at the college to see their work in print and to share it with others. And I think it's a kind of validation. Would you agree, Jas?
Yeah,
to have your work published.
It's also inspiring and thrilling to pick up a book and see your name in it for the first time in your life. It's a wonderful, it's an unforgettable moment, isn't it?
It's
Elaine?
a proud moment, really. It's you did something, accomplished something from your own, and it's readable all over.
Yes. Yes.
Oftentimes what prevents people from getting published is they don't know how to try. They don't know how to open the door.
For sure, yeah. Do you want to talk about your book or later? What do you like to?
We'll do it later.
We'll do it later, okay. And what are some ways an average person can improve his or her writing?
I think, first of all, read a lot. And if you have some idea of what kind of thing you want to write, read that kind of thing and find out how the professionals do it. How do people that you admire do it? You know, what are the books you admire? What is writing you admire? Read that, and not that you'll write exactly like that person, but it will inspire you in some way, it seems to me.
Yeah, maybe also what's inside you and what you learn, it fits together.
Absolutely.
And it's make you creative.
I agree. I mean, Jas was talking about the transformative quality or power of writing, and I think it does do that. It changes you. It makes you think better. And of course, if you think better, you make better decisions. You'll have a happier life, right?
Right.
More or less. Yeah.
And you know, people do it different ways, Elaine.
Sure.
Some people sit down with a journal and they write it out. Other people sort of riff on a computer.
Yeah.
And one of the most interesting descriptions I ever heard came during an interview with Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. I asked him, do you do anything special regarding songwriting? And he said, yeah, I always sleep with a tape recorder by my bed.
Wow, that's a good idea.
And I asked him why, and he said, he told me that one time in the 1960s, He woke up and he looked at his tape recorder in the morning, and the cassette had gone to the other end. But he didn't remember ever turning the unit on, so he rolled it back to the beginning, and he pressed play. And he looks at me and he goes, "You know what I found on there, mate? Dun, 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 no satisfaction." He wrote the band's first #1 hit in the United States in his sleep, forgot about it,
Wow, that's
discovered
a good
it on a cassette, and then he's kept one ever since. Nowadays, everybody carries around a cell phone that you can use to record. So if you're in your car, you're walking on the beach or somewhere, and you have an idea for a story or some piece of writing, record it.
You know, I was sitting outside in the sun today, and in the TV inside, I hear it. And they say something important. I said, I wish I have the pencil and I wish I have the recorder to say to record it or to write it down, or a pencil and write it. That's really great idea. Jas, you wrote a book with Jimi Hendrix's father. What did you learn from him about how parents can encourage creativity in children? That's important.
I like that question, Elaine, because when I got asked to write this book with Jimmy's father, my daughter Ava was just about to be born.
Wow.
And Jimi Hendrix was one of the great musicians of the 20th century, an incandescent mind, incredible talent, whole vision of music. And I wondered what, and his father raised him as a single father, and I wondered, what could a parent do to create a person with Jimi Hendrix's talent? What are you doing? And I asked Al Hendrix that question 8 or 10 different ways. And the only thing I could really figure out was he basically recognized that Jimmy had an interest in the guitar. So Al sold his saxophone to buy Jimmy a guitar, sacrificed. And then he stayed out of the way. He didn't force Jimmy to take lessons. He didn't tell Jimmy what to do. He didn't beat him over the head with, "You've got to be disciplined." He let him do what he wanted to, and that worked. And I think a lot of times if a child's creative and a parent is too heavy-handed with trying to push the kid, the creativity evaporates. Whereas if you just give the child, the tools, in the case of a writer, give him pens and pencils or a computer and what have you, or in the case of a musician, get him an instrument, and then stay out of the way. Don't force them in the lessons. Let them figure it out on their own, because what you really want to do is make the inward journey and find that which is uniquely you and build your creativity and your artwork on that. And so that's the lesson I took away, and you better believe it. Every time in her life my daughter wanted an instrument, I went right out and bought it for her.
Wow, that's great. That's
wow, that's very interesting.
Sure is, yeah.
Since I want to tell you something from my experience, and I don't know if you can help me or help other students like you. As you know, I did not born in this country, and I came old, and I didn't learn the grammar here. And when I want to write thank you letter, or when I want to write something, I am confused how to correct it and keep doing the same mistakes and the same mistakes. Is there a class that, because every class I go, they teach you what they wrote. It's not what they plan to do in that class, not what you want to learn.
Right.
And I wonder if you implement a program like this, people who come from other countries, because I keep doing the same mistake because nobody will correct me. The same thing like children. If we didn't tell them, this is mama, this is not right. It's better to do it this way. They learn the right way. Always I say catch them doing something right and encourage them.
Yeah, sure.
And so acknowledge it. So, but here nobody will help me. I always wish a class like this that I can do.
At WCC, we do have a lot of English as a second language classes. They start at the grammar level, reading, a little bit of conversation. I think a lot of it just takes time, and I think that's the hardest thing about writing too, is that for most of us it takes a lot of time. Would you say, Jas? I mean, some come to it more naturally, just as someone could pick up a basketball and shoot it better than another, perhaps.
Elaine, I think there's a pretty easy way to solve that problem.
Wow.
And this works for all students. Typically you write something on a computer. Do a printout. and then read the thing out loud.
Yeah, that's a good litmus
and
test.
stop
Yeah.
at every period and ask yourself, is this the way I would say this in real life? As long if you can get your, because you speak in a way where everyone understands everything you're saying, but sometimes there's a disconnect between the way somebody writes and the way he or she speaks. If you can make your writing mirror the way you'd speak, then you become much faster at writing and much more clear.
I am talking, Jas, about grammar.
That's what I'm speaking of too. This is
And
how
you're
you.
speaking about grammar. Oh.
I think an indirect way to do it too is to read a lot. You know, because most of the reading,
I agree with
the
you.
things that we
Reading
read are
it
usually
helps
grammatical for the most part. Sometimes, impeccably grammatical. So I think that can be a good, but it's slow. That's a slow business, right?
I know, but really reading, it helped me when I read books, it helped me to understand how they do it, how that's a good idea too.
Yeah, which I think circles back to, if we're talking about kids at home with parents, I think if the parents have books around and encourage their kids to read, that's a really good start, it seems to me.
The other thing is, keep it simple. There's great beauty and strength in simplicity. If you think about it, the great spiritual messages of the world, the great songs that we love, the sayings that we use all the time with people in our family and our friends are usually simple, straightforward, and direct. And a lot of people think that in order to be a good writer, you have to learn to be very fancy with your writing, when in fact, if you keep it simple and direct, you'll get a much bigger audience and people will, draw more from your thoughts.
I think that's a good point, yeah.
I just want to, we didn't talk about what is difference, what's the difference between writing and editing?
Jas, you can probably take this one.
Editing is what you do once the writing's finished. Editing is what I was speaking about earlier, where you take a printout and you have a pencil and your pen in your hand and you start crossing things out. I had a student one time who was covered with tattoos, including poetry written across his neck and chest and body.
Wow.
And I said to him, the next tattoo you should get should be less equals more. If you can say something in less words, it'll have more impact. So simplify, simplify, simplify. It doesn't mean dumb down your words. It means to write in such a way that everybody can understand you.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll tell a student, you know what? I couldn't understand your paper. I want you to rewrite it so you could get in front of a room full of 5th graders and read it out loud and everybody in the room will understand every word. That's when you can see a great transformation in someone's writing.
That's great.
That's good, yeah.
One more question. I would just want to ask you, what does it take to be a poet?
Poet. I think for poetry, I think sensitivity to language is usually that's the kind of standard answer I guess I give. But I think and we could go on and on about this. What is poetry? But it seems to me poems are composed of language that is musical or highly charged in some way, has a lot of energy packed into it. So I think it's musical language, and often indirect language, but musical language I think is probably my simplest definition.
Poetry is the highest form of writing. It's right at the top of the pyramid. The greatest editors are poets because you strip the language down to the essential, to the beautiful, to the melodic, to the frightening,
Right.
And you get at the core of who you are as a person.
Wow,
It
that's
takes great courage,
great.
but it's a journey worth taking every time. Wouldn't you say, Tom?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's true for all kinds of writing, wouldn't you say, Jas? I
Yeah.
mean, it's always a journey. I mean, a lot of the great writers will say, I start, but I don't know where I'm going to finish, and that's part of the great journey. It's a little bit like life itself, isn't it? Yeah.
And if you surprise yourself, mission accomplished.
Right. What's the old Robert Frost thing? No surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader. Yeah. So I think we have to surprise ourselves a little bit, and that's the great beauty and fun of it. And of course the danger, as you say, a little bit, Jas. There's a little bit of that too. But that's life too. It seems to me.
I just want to ask you again that you didn't say the name of your book, and if you can tell us a few things about it, since we have a few minutes more.
It's called My Son Jimmy. And when Elaine, I've always
And say your name again, because people like to hear your name again on the book.
Jas Obrecht, My Son Jimmy, co-written with James Allen Hendricks. Doing hundreds of interviews with musicians over the years, I've often discovered that the rhythm of a musician's language very often mirrors the way he or she sounds on his instrument or when they sing, right? So I thought Jimi Hendrix grew up with just his father. His mother was out of the picture most of the time. I'd like to have the book be in the voice that Jimmy heard all the time as a kid. So I decided when we did the book that the book would be in Al's words. Also, it kind of took me off the hook because he was the person in the room with him when all this stuff happened.
Oh, wow.
He's the first-hand witness, unassailable witness. So I thought it best to do the whole book in Al's words in the rhythm of his language from start to finish, the same way I do interviews with musicians all the time. And I'm happy we did that. Now that he's passed away, I think it's a good document.
For sure, yeah. Can you show? There are so many
course,
good
yeah,
art
right,
pictures here. I was impressed.
Yeah, and
Can
again,
you open one?
Oh, yeah. You know, I'll
it's
see if I
really
can,
Maybe mention what kind of work
right,
we
yeah.
publish.
Well, you know, photography, artwork, poetry, fiction, nonfiction. Here's a good page, nice and bright. I don't know if you guys can get that, but you know, we were talking about young people, you know, getting inspired to do creative work, and it seems to me, and Jas, we've talked about this a lot since we've known each other. One of the best places for young people to get published is at their school.
wow.
You know, whether it's an elementary school or a preschool or a high school or a community college, wherever, they probably have some kind of publication at the school, and that's a great place for young people to get started, I think. And of course, at the community college, even,
And
even
also
older
there
people.
is faces. I like
Right.
Einstein, and
Yeah,
also
yeah.
I mean, it's really
Right, right,
the
yeah.
people who are doing this art.
Yeah, it's really a
drawing.
tribute to them in a lot of ways. I mean, to have such beautiful work, you know, all in one physical place, WCC, and one small, you know, small place like a book too. And I think it just shows you.
And what is
there's-
there a name for your book?
It's called the Huron River Review, and we're working right now on issue number 12. So we've been.
This
doing
is
it for-
number 12.
This is number 11 here.
Oh,
Yeah.
11,
So
oh.
number 12 is the one we are currently working on. It will come out, this month or next month. We're very close. Yeah.
So I missed it. Did you include all the students and staff? Whom included in this
Right.
book?
Well, I'm the editor of it and faculty advisor, and I have a staff.
You are
of
the editor?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
So, and I have a staff of students who read the submissions with the names taken off. So the submissions are blind, as we say. So our readers don't know the author's name. All they see is the work. They score, that way the work is judged, we believe, on its own merits, which seems to be fair and very interesting too. And so they score the submissions we get, and we pick the best ones and put them in the magazine. So we've been doing it for, you know, almost 12 years.
Wow, it's really encouraging. So encouraging for students.
It's really fun for us to work on, and it's wonderful for students to get published. I mean, they really do enjoy it. It's you know, it's the publication of it's an event that I think a lot of students look forward to every year. So it's great.
Elaine, I always have a policy in my classes that if you get published during the semester, I will raise your grade an entire letter.
Well, Jas, you've sent me a lot of good writers and artists over the years. You really have. I mean, that's been wonderful.
I think it's fear, really, the fear of rejection or just not understanding how to go about it that keeps most people from opening that door and getting in.
Yeah, yeah. And I know for me, as an editor of a student publication, I think one of my duties is to make sure we have a publication that does honor everyone who submits. So, you know, we don't send nasty rejections. We don't put people down. I mean, we're very friendly. We want people to submit. We want to publish as many people as we can.
Did you sell it in the store, or you keep it in the?
This is in the bookstore at WCC. Yeah,
And-
available
and-
there. Right. Yes.
Wow.
I should point out, though, that it's known all over the country, and it's won a lot of awards
It has.
competing against some of the best schools.
We've been very fortunate. We have a great pool of talent at
And
WCC.
Tom deserves a lot of credit because he's the founder of this publication as well.
Wow, you deserve all the credits. I'm so
well,
proud
you're-
to know
you're
that
very
we
kind,
have
yeah.
to know that somebody like you at Washtenaw Community.
well,
I
that's very
started
kind.
Washtenaw Community when I was 43 and a half
Oh,
without
wow,
knowing
yeah.
the language.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And this
what a
is-
journey. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a long journey.
Hey,
Yeah, and
the college is lucky to have this guy.
Oh, dear.
that's
true.
what I'm saying, yeah. I have to say, I mean, thank you, Professor Tom Zimmerman.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Mr. Jas Obrecht. Really, I believe this is, I hope parents and teachers are watching, and to help them to be better writers. I believe I learn a lot, me as a grown up, and I just want to say thank you very much. It's inspiring. It's really I hope some people will watch it again and again. And I have to say that thank you for watching, and thank you CTN for the opportunity to have this program.